Now, the former world boxing champion Anthony Joshua has announced his next fight against the social media star turned boxer Jake Paul in a sanctioned heavyweight bout next month.
I'm not in there to try and knock Jake out in 10 seconds or 8 rounds. I'm going to go in there and do a job. I'm going to want to hurt him.
It could be the end for him, literally. It could be his last day on earth.
The Miami press conference didn't just confirm what people suspected. It exposed it in the most brutal way possible. Jake Paul had absolutely no business standing across from Anthony Joshua. What we saw wasn't a normal face-off. It was a psychological beatdown happening live on camera. Jake's desperation slipped through every sentence he tried to force out, while Joshua dismantled him without raising his voice or changing his expression. It wasn't a back and forth. It was a master calmly peeling apart a kid's act. And honestly, watching it unfold was incredible.
The upcoming match in Miami will be the biggest test of Jake Paul's career.
Before we go any further, you need the setup, because none of this insanity makes sense without it. On December 19th, live on Netflix, Jake Paul is stepping into a boxing ring with Anthony Joshua. When this fight was announced, the entire boxing world just froze. Jake was preparing to fight Gervonta Davis at 135 pounds, and suddenly he's booked against a 245-pound heavyweight who's been knocking out real professionals for over 10 years. The matchup doesn't just feel wrong, it feels dangerous.
And today it's been made official. Jake Paul is going to get in a ring in a boxing match, boxing gloves, to mix it with one of the most dangerous heavyweights on the planet.
And today it became official. Jake Paul is actually stepping into a real boxing match with one of the most dangerous heavyweights walking the planet. The same guy who's ended nights and careers with a single punch. Jake has spent years bragging about fighting anyone, anytime, anywhere, pretending he fears nobody. Then Joshua said yes, and instantly Jake started talking like someone trying to convince himself he's not terrified. The act slipped, and everyone saw it.
Are you all right, my man? Have you lost your mind? This is Anthony Joshua that you just called out. You're fighting Anthony Joshua in less than a month. Why are you doing this?
I like to challenge myself.
The press conference was supposed to be Jake's chance to prove he's evolved past the loudmouth influencer stage. This was his moment to show the world he's ready for a real challenge. But instead, he kept repeating the same lines over and over, like he was trying to hypnotize himself into believing he belonged there. Meanwhile, Anthony Joshua sat completely relaxed, like a man who already knows exactly how this story ends. When Anthony Joshua walks into a room, you feel it immediately. That presence is impossible to fake. This is a guy who's fought in front of 90,000 fans at Wembley, held multiple heavyweight titles, and survived brutal wars with elite fighters. He carries himself with the confidence of someone who doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. One look at him, and you instantly understand the difference between a real heavyweight and a manufactured one.
There's not one element of their boxing skill set that Jake Paul can come 15-20% in regards to Anthony Joshua.
Now compare that to Jake Paul, who built his entire career on being the loudest person in any room. Controversy, chaos, noise, that's his comfort zone. But standing next to Joshua exposed the gap instantly. When reporters asked Joshua about criticism from the UK, his response was pure champion mindset. He focuses on supporters, not haters. No defensiveness, no insecurity. Meanwhile, Jake looked like a guy desperately trying to list every person who still believes in him.
People say, oh, I respect Jake Paul for getting in there. No, respect me because I'm about to win.
Jake started naming names like he was reading off a checklist. Oscar De La Hoya supports him. Nate Diaz thinks he'll win. Tyson Fury bet money on him. It felt less like confidence and more like someone begging for emotional backup. The truth is, The boxing world isn't excited about this matchup. They're concerned. People aren't whispering about an upset. They're whispering about a potential disaster.
This is not as one-sided fight as people think, and I have power. I have the ability to put people to sleep, and so that's why I took this challenge. And
Jake started naming names, like he was reading off a checklist. Oscar De La Hoya supports him. Nate Diaz thinks he'll win. Tyson Fury bet money on him. It felt less like confidence, and more like someone begging for emotional backup. The truth is, the boxing world isn't excited about this matchup. They're concerned. People aren't whispering about an upset. They're whispering about a potential disaster.
I'm putting a stint in all of those plans. Don't book anything. Don't arrange flights and hotels. I'm knocking this guy out, becoming the CEO of Matchroom Boxing and changing the plans, and it's going to be me versus Tyson Fury next year.
Then Jake switched into tough guy mode, talking about being ready to die in the ring and having his face broken. It sounded intense, until you realized he was trying harder to motivate himself than anyone else. Joshua's response was cold and controlled. He said he needs to cut Jake up, break him down, and hurt him, with the exact tone somebody uses while reading a grocery list. That's the difference between someone who's lived through real violence and someone trying to act it out.
I don't think it's necessarily fair to AJ. I just know that I have the power and the timing. It's the shots that you don't see coming that knock people out.
Throughout the press conference, Jake leaned heavily on his favorite phrase, delusional optimism. He kept insisting that people doubted him before, and he proved them wrong. So this situation is no different. But repeating past victories doesn't change the reality of stepping into the ring with a legit heavyweight killer. This wasn't confidence. This was denial wearing a smile.
And I'm a tricky knockout artist that people don't give me enough credit for. I've won Knockout of the Year.
There's a massive flaw in Jake's logic, and even he knows it. Knocking out retired MMA fighters is nothing like facing a prime heavyweight with real power, real experience, and real pedigree. These two worlds aren't comparable. They don't even exist in the same universe. Pretending they do isn't bravery. It's the kind of delusion that gets people hurt, badly.
At the end of the day, it's just what happens at the end of the night. I'm not in there to try and knock Jake out in 10 seconds or 8 rounds. I'm gonna go in there and do a job. I'm gonna wanna hurt him. You know, I'm gonna wanna really hurt him in the ring.
Then Jake accidentally revealed his real mindset. He called this a win-win situation and said he's already achieved everything he wanted in life. On the surface, it sounds peaceful and mature. But in reality, it's an escape hatch, a built-in excuse for when things go south. Fighters who believe they can win don't create emotional backup plans. They prepare to dominate,